Hello, very warm welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello, on the programme this evening.
After weeks of travel chaos, Manchester Airport's managing director steps down. We're there live tonight where Andy Burnham is leading crisis talks.
Tight budgets getting even tighter. A special report from one struggling estate on the edge of the peaks as it prepares for the cost of living crisis.
We are fearful of what is round the corner because it's affecting all of us.
Filled with music again, why Paul McCartney's childhood home is being opened up to a new generation of musicians.
Just days before they meet in the Premier League for Liverpool and Manchester City, the title race goes on hold. Tonight is all about the Champions League quarter-finals. We'll be live here at the Etihad Stadium later in the show.
And this fantastic weather photo today showing the kind of moody skies we're in for over the next few days. The forecast is coming up.
We start, though, with that major development at Manchester Airport. After weeks of travel chaos for passengers, the managing director, Karen Smart, has this evening stepped down.
The airport's blaming staff shortages on the long delay, saying it's struggled to recruit workers after the COVID lockdowns.
Some people have been so fed up they've simply abandoned their bags without even collecting them. Now, Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham and union bosses are there tonight for crisis talks. We can cross live to Sarah Rogers. Sarah, what is the latest?
Well, I'm hoping that the planes that have been jetting off behind me do have all their passengers on board and are heading off to somewhere sunnier, because back here the management are certainly feeling the heat tonight. As you said, the managing director, Karen Smart, has stepped down, and it's because of this chaos which has continued into today. Huge queues, baggage that's been abandoned, flights missed, making it an utter nightmare to travel through here.
How long have you been here? Since half four this morning.
You've been here 7 hours?
Yeah.
And you've missed your flight already?
Yeah.
And is there any likelihood that you'll get another flight?
Very much doubt it now, not today, no.
Well, the airport say that Karen Smart took the job at the beginning of the pandemic and that she's now decided to return to the south of England, where her family is based, to pursue fresh career opportunities. Now, the airport, who laid off staff at the beginning of the pandemic, are blaming staff shortages and high COVID levels for the problems. Now, at the moment, Andy Burnham and unions are meeting here to try to get to the bottom of this. It's thought that even the police and fire crews now might be brought in to help.
We would say to the mayor that, it's important that he supports the airport in the short term, but the long-term fix is not taking police officers and firefighters, both of whom are highly stretched themselves, to deliver this in the long term.
Well, it's something that they're going to have to get a grip on soon, heading into the summer season. We will get the outcome of the meeting. We're expected to get details on that tomorrow.
Sarah, thank you.
Well, next this evening, just how hard will the poorest people in our region be hit by the cost of living crisis? From tomorrow, workers face a rise in national insurance contributions.
As energy bills, food prices and fuel costs soar, households are going to see an average of £1,000 cut from their incomes this year.
We spent a couple of days on the Gamesley housing estate near Gloucester, described as one of the country's most left-behind neighbourhoods.
People living there told us they feel abandoned.
We manage at the moment and we pay the bills and it's okay, but we have noticed that things are starting to creep up and it's just going to get worse, isn't it, as time goes on?
They need to understand that there's a lot of people in here, they suffer with anxiety, depression and people's mental health, you know what I mean? It's not good for the community at all. Everything across the board is rising, and yet we've got the energy increases to come very soon.
Gamesley in High Peak is home to over 2,000 people.
It is true that the poorer people pay the highest price.
We struggle because we're always second best.
And as Britons face the biggest squeeze to incomes in 50 years, we spend time here to gauge the mood.
This current crisis is especially severe because it's driven by a number of different factors. That means people are seeing price rises in virtually every single area, from groceries to fuel bills to energy costs. And that has much wider implications for people's lives.
Right, my lovely, do you want to come in?
Joanne and Rachel have shopped here for months.
We're doing 40 bags this week, and we generally give out 2 bags. So we give out a bag full of like cupboard staple items and then a bag of fresh veg and stuff from the fridge. Right, you've got a chicken korma or steak and mash ready meal.
Cuts price foods in huge demand as inflation hits new highs. So the G52 Community Hub throws a lifeline.
Since COVID hit and that affected my son's mental health, I had to quit work. From then, we've kind of had to manage on a lot less than we were on before, really.
I'm just being more conscious about the wastage in our house at this moment, because we can't afford to do, these days out that we used to do. Have gas and electric on all day. It's something that we've had to scale back on. Everything's costing more money. The petrol in the car for my husband to get to work, it's been put in more regular. Just taking my son to do extra activities for school, it's costing more money. So I'm having to budget that into my everyday life. So like we say, we are robbing Peter to pay Paul just to keep up.
It's people in here from all walks of life. It's not people who are just coming for some free food. There's people who've got good jobs. Times are just what you used to be able to live on, you can't do anymore.
Places like Gamesley, you're very limited in your transport links. You're very limited in your shops. It is true that the poorer people pay the highest price. So you can't perhaps nip to a big supermarket so easily because you'd have to pay for taxi if you didn't drive. Adds to the cost of your fuel bill. And if you're always buying local, you're paying more.
And if these problems already exist, what does that mean for families as we enter this, what we're being told is going to be a really difficult period for families?
We sit and we say we don't know what is going to come, what is round the corner, but we are fearful of what is round the corner because it's affecting all of us. I think people are going to go cold and hungry. I think we're going to have a lot of people who have a lot more anxiety, and somebody's going to have to cope with that and deal with that, and somebody's going to have to support that, because some families are at breaking point already.
Tough choices being made by people like Colette, a mum and unpaid carer.
I'll do without eating, because I think it's more important that the rest of them get their stuff than it is for me.
There are days when you go without eating?
Yeah, because it's like it's sometimes easier for me to have a brew and a cig and make sure everybody else has got something better than it is to just sort of say, well, I'll have this and this and this. So that's what we do. It's what parents do, but I think it's a natural thing for anybody to do, to make sure your children come first. I'll cook a family meal and I say, I'll just have a tin of soup in a bit, and then I might not even bother doing that.
The post-war years saw tens of thousands of people moved from inner city areas. Condemned as slums, they were overpopulated and unsafe.
A slum house, and the strongest part of some of them is the overlying stench. Occupied on an average by 4 people and an uncounted number of cockroaches.
People left those slums and moved to estates like Gamesley with promises of a better standard of living.
It's bath night, and this is the system you use when you have no running hot water. You boil cold water on the gas stove, and you're severely limited to the amount you can heat this way. And then, of course, there's the cost of the gas.
Worries over a cost of living crisis then as now, and just as then, communities left behind.
It's getting beyond a joke, to be honest with you.
So what's the last few months been like?
A struggle. Difficult, yeah. Not be able to go shopping or anything, I'll be left for any little treats and that, have we? When we get these a toy and that on payday, but can't do any of that. I've got a car outside that I can't do anything with because I ain't got the money for it. I'm a single dad on my own, living with 2 kids. I'm a kid, yeah. It's just hard, isn't it, mate?
And have you seen you said you got your car outside, you've seen what fuel prices go up?
The cost of fuel's just skyrocketed, hasn't it? So and it seems to be going up every single day as well. It doesn't seem to be just one time, do you know what I mean? It's like they're slowly creeping up, and there's not a lot you can do about it. But it seems to be that, like, if you work, you're worse off. You just can't win. You just can't win at all. If it was up to me, they need to just lower the prices, because they need to understand that it's like there's a lot of people in here, they suffer with anxiety, depression, and people's mental health, you know what I mean? It's not good for the community at all. You see people, like, nobody's going out, the kids aren't playing out or anything. It's not good. It's just not good all around.
Over the next few months, 1.3 million people will be pushed further into poverty. For a profession charged with improving lives, it's not just food they'll worry about.
Kumar from ITV News, good to see you.
What if it becomes a prescription that somebody says, I can't afford it this month? Or I've had people say to me, look, Doc, you've given me 3 things. If I could only have 2 of them, which 2 would you recommend that I have?
So what do you say to patients when they say that to you, when they ask that question about making these choices?
Ideally, you want the person to take what's being prescribed. It's a huge impact. We're losing time to take the early steps of prevention, and we'll see more ill health as a consequence.
The government had promised to level up the country by increasing wages and investing in public services in communities like this one. But this spring's cost of living crisis threatens to make families worse off. So it does now beg the question, is the government strategy now likely to fail?
There's always been for me this great northern-south divide, you know, of people up north who just say, you know, we're struggling and all that, but we struggle because we're always second best. Look at the ridiculous amount of money is spent on this train, right, which has cost billions to take, 5 or 10 minutes of a journey to London or Birmingham. All right for them, but what do we get up Gaines in Glossop? Reconditioned trains.
Abigail wants to do her bits for the estate. Growing businesses like hers bring money in, but an unexpected bill has left her in the red.
Probably just sit here and cry, but you just can't, can you? Do you know what I mean? You've just got to get on with it. It is hard, really, really hard. Because when you do something and you bring a bit of money in, you're always thinking, oh, but, you know, you've got to give it all away. I just want to really be as good as I can be, not just making ends meet, paying your bills and that's it. But I don't want to close a business. I've been doing it for like over 3 years now. And it's a lovely business, it's so happy in here.
Andy, how long have you had this business?
So I've been here now since August 2020.
Andy tells me he fulfilled a lifetime ambition by opening. But almost half of this trade is facing closure as the price of fuel and food products rise.
We've seen a 25% increase in fish. We've seen a 20% increase in packaging materials. We've seen the cost of peas rise by almost 100%. It's always been the affordable tea time treat. It is becoming a luxury now. Fish and chips are going to hit £9–10 a portion. That is just unachievable for people that are working on a budget.
That might be true, but for a generation growing up in the hardest times, evenings mean learning about resilience and resolve.
We got approached because there was a lot of kids on the streets on Gamesley, and we always felt like, you know, if we give the kids something and our local community something back. I mean, this was a club we all came in as kids at discos and stuff like that. We only charge £2.50 a kid, and it all goes back into the equipment that we've got. If people ring up and say, Steve, you know, can't really afford to, you know, to send the kid, I say, just send the kid. We're not bothered about the money, just send your kid in. You know what I mean? We'll sort that out.
It's not about money. It's about listening to the experience and the expertise that local people have, because they are best placed to say what will and won't work in an area.
You know, you just do what you can from payday to payday, really. You know, try and live to me towards my means, and, you know, just soldier on, just carry on, really.
There is a community vibe, and it's like even the kids know
somebody's auntie knows somebody's grandma.
Well, I'm going to stay here for as long as I possibly can, but it's going to be tough times. We're just going to have to pull our belts in and buckle down and just hope that there's either some tax cuts comes our way or some support from the government.
The experiences of one community in a week when millions will see a rise in their taxable earnings. The Chancellor's promised a stronger, fairer society, but that may be hard to achieve.
Go back to see how they get on with that. Well, next we're turning the clock back for our latest report in our series, remembering the Falklands War as we mark 40 years since the conflict.
Yeah, tonight we hear from Dr. Gordon Brooks, who was on board the Liverpool-registered merchant vessel, the Atlantic Conveyor, when it was attacked and sunk.
Paul Crone reports.
We have come here this morning to remember and to pay tribute to those who have lost their lives on the Atlantic Conveyor.
June 1982, and a memorial service at Liverpool's Pierhead for those killed when the merchant vessel Atlantic Conveyor was attacked and sunk during the Falklands War. Just a few weeks before, the Conveyor had been in Liverpool before her journey to the South Atlantic, carrying Harrier jump jets, helicopters and munitions for the British Task Force. On board as the ship's medical officer, 25-year-old Gordon Brooks, brought up in Blackpool, and it wasn't long before the Conveyor was under scrutiny.
We started being buzzed by Russian aircraft, and we had to cover up what was on our deck to hide it from Russian satellites. And so there were people who were interested about what was on the ship.
And on the 25th of May, the ship was hit by 2 deadly air-launched Exocet missiles.
There was a shudder. The ship just shuddered. There wasn't really an explosion. It was just the ship shuddered as if it had hit something. And I'd been in the ice floes, and if you're crunching through ice, it's that sort of shudder as you hit something.
With a crew member trapped below deck, one of the ship's engineers and Gordon attempted a rescue.
He got dressed up and he went, and the two of us followed behind him, sheltering behind him to see if we could get to this man. And we couldn't. We just couldn't. It was too hot and there was too much smoke. And even he, with his gear on, he couldn't actually get any further. The whole thing was heating up, and the decks beneath our feet were starting to heat up. And our shoes eventually were starting to melt and stick to the floor. It was so hot.
The call to abandon ship was given as survivors, including Gordon, tried to escape the inferno by climbing down the ship's ladders.
As I was going down, I could see the side of the ship was glowing red. There was just red hot with the flames and fires burning inside and holes in the side, smoke coming out and bits gushing out from time to time out of the holes.
Having reached a life raft, Gordon's problems were far from over.
I fell off and I was just in the water then, lying, and I wasn't shivering, and it was slow motion there. I was thinking very, very slowly. And I was thinking, I really, really want to go home now. I want to see my 1-month-old baby and
The 15,000-ton conveyor was fatally damaged by the Exocet missiles, and 3 days later, whilst under tow, her burnt-out hulk split in two and she sank. In total, 12 crew members died during the attack, and 40 years on, Dr. Gordon Brooks feels he could have done more to help.
I was the medic. I was supposed to help people and save them. And even though I did my very, very best, I failed at it. And I think that's a thing that drove me from then on. It was this thing driving me to prove to myself that I was good at doing something.
And prove it he did by being selected for the proposed Juno mission to put Britain's first astronaut into orbit on a Soviet space station in 1991. A remarkable story from a remarkable man. Paul Crone, ITV News.
Well, next, the house where some of the Beatles' most famous songs were written. So Paul McCartney's childhood home in South Liverpool can lay claim to being an important address in music history.
And now its owners are looking to the future, hoping that the famous house on Forthland Road in Allerton can inspire a whole new generation of musicians. Andy Bonner explains.
It could be any house in any street, but some of the most famous songs in the world were penned inside these walls. This is Forthland Road, childhood home of Sir Paul McCartney, and for his brother, it brings back many memories.
Whilst I'm learning photography in that room, there's a guitar coming from this room here, chinga chinga ching, and our kid is practicing his love.
You couldn't have known where you were all headed.
That's where you suddenly realise the significance of something like a little two up, two down, because then nobody was bothered. There's no opportunities. They're just songs. They're going nowhere. But you do them, and you've got faith in them.
When Sir Paul returned here 4 years ago, it had been restored to how he knew it.
Everything sounds better in the bar.
The importance of this home wasn't lost on an organisation previously known for more stately property.
This is where Paul was when he was a teenager. This is where he wrote his first song. And John Lennon came down to the house. He was a regular visitor.
Now unsigned musicians will get the chance to write and play here in the hope some of the magic will rub off.
It's fascinating. The National Trust, after all this time, are thinking of inviting young people to this house and giving them the opportunity that we had all those years ago.
Andy Bonner, ITV News, Liverpool.
Yeah, great idea. Well, here comes the sun, or Joe, at least.
He's cooked up a storm and now he's going to scrape the fat into the bin instead of the sink. My guy.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hang on, was that a fish?
Thank you. A very good evening to you. A few glimmers of spring sunshine around today, but there's also been some showery rain. More of that to come tonight, and from tomorrow, a colder feel to our weather, with further showers, but some drier conditions moving in for Friday and Saturday. Back to the details, and it's felt cold, but actually temperatures are around average for the time of year. We'll see things turning chillier with a plunge of air from the north over the next few days and nights, so a return to frosts, but some clearer, quieter weather across the UK as we roll into Friday and the weekend. Back to this evening, still plenty of low cloud mistiness and spells of rain for a time with a stiff breeze, especially for western coasts. Overnight tonight clear and dry for a time, and then later on further showers move in. We're all free from frost, 7 or 8 Celsius, the overnight low. On to tomorrow, and first of all the sun will be rising tomorrow morning just after 6:30, setting at 5 to 8 tomorrow evening. Tomorrow, for most places, a rather cloudy start with 1 or 2 showers around. Sunshine getting out from time to time tomorrow, but as you can see, into the afternoon, showers will merge to form longer spells of rain, which will gradually clear through with some late brightness before dusk. Still a bit of a breeze around, but it will be easing off later on in the day. And 11 Celsius will be our top temperature. This is beginning to feel chillier, and as we go into tomorrow evening, slightly colder air digging in once more. Thursday, we could see a few showers turning wintry up on higher ground. The air is cold enough for a frost over the next few nights, but Friday and Saturday at least should be dry days with some sunshine. Bye-bye.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Bob! Amy!
And that is it for now. The ITV Evening News follows with the latest national and international news.
Yeah, I'll have those crucial Champions League results in our late news, and the latest, of course, from the airport. That's after news at 10.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.